when it came to working on set, it was about trying to chase down the truth of every moment, and the truth of being a brother, the truth of being marginalized in a family, the truth of feeling different from your brother in some way, that the delicacy of vulnerability, the meaning of mischief. What does mischief mean? It probably means,
especially if you're the god of mischief.
You gotta,
better know what it means.
You better know what it means. Exactly. Yeah, you got to look that one up. Yeah.
Can I see your tickets?
You again? Hello. Tickets. Yes, of course. Here they are. Oops. Still, it looks lovely, doesn't it? Look, is this really necessary? There is a simple explanation. Hey.
Huh? What? Hey! Get out of the way!
Welcome to the actor's side. Today, he doesn't just have one series this year, he's got two now, which is really exciting. Welcome, Tom Hiddleston.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pete. Really an honor to be here. So thanks for having
and
me.
I've seen the beginning. They only sent me a couple of episodes, but I have seen the Essex.
The Essex Serpent.
Oh, yeah, Serpent for Apple. And, of course, Loki.
Of course, yeah.
Which had its first season. It seems like a while ago, but it actually was the first season this time, and there's going to be a second one.
There is going to be a second season. We're about to start.
I was wondering if you've started yet.
Dive. Yeah. Well, the hair is still my natural kind of rusty blonde. So, yeah, once this gets dyed black, we'll be in it for sure.
Wow. An embarrassment of riches. You're a movie star, and you're a TV star, and you're a stage star. You managed to find a way to work all this in.
Oh, thank you, Pete. That's very kind. I truthfully just love the work and love all different kinds of work and different ways of telling stories, and always have. And when I was younger, the actors I always admired were able to move between different things, and so I feel very grateful and very fortunate that I've been able to do the same.
Yeah, and you've actually found a way to get back on the stage, which I would guess is your main love. I don't know.
I love them all. I really do. I think, like any performer in a way, I sometimes think of musicians. You can make a record in a studio, and there's an element of detail and precision, perhaps, and then you play something live, and you're relating, connecting to the audience, who are as much a part of the moment as you are as a performer. And I really feel that is the same distinction in a way between acting for camera and acting live in a theatre. Is that acting for camera can afford a level of precision and intimacy and detail, and in a filming schedule you collect for a day around one moment or one scene, and you really try to lock that in, and then it's gone. You've got it, and you've got it forever. Yeah. Whereas on stage, you play the whole story every night, and that really is the main distinction, which is that you're not just focusing on one scene, but you're doing the whole thing, and so you can modulate various aspects of the story or the performance and the audience. And sometimes they know it and sometimes they don't, but they are so much a part of the experience. A very attentive audience, you can feel the attention.
When you won a Newcomer Award, I think early on at the Olivier Awards, and I'm thinking of Olivier too.
Right.
He was so able to go back and forth and take supporting roles in movies and things like that.
Yeah.
Like that was not. He said, "I go for the role. It doesn't matter the size."
Yeah. I never saw Olivier on stage. I never I've obviously seen his film performances, but yeah, I was too late for Sir Lawrence.
Well, you weren't too late for Ken Branagh.
I certainly wasn't. Yeah.
So often
Yeah.
compared, and having he played Olivier in
Brilliantly. Yes.
My Week with Marilyn,
Yeah.
but he was very instrumental in
Changed my life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
did he? Yeah,
Yeah,
because
no
you had
question.
worked with him a couple of times, I think, in
Yes,
Wallander and
we did Wallander for the adaptation of the novels by Henning Mankell, Swedish detective thrillers, and he played the title role for the BBC. 2 seasons of that, and then we acted on stage in a production of Chekhov's Ivanov, and then he cast me as Loki in the first Thor movie, and
yeah, the rest is history.
the rest is history. Yes. But you know, what's extraordinary about Kenneth Branagh is he's done that for so many people.
Yeah.
It's not unique or singular to me. It's part of him. It's part of his generosity of spirit. There are so many people that he's done that for, and I find that extremely inspiring.
What did he give you for Loki in that? You know, what in shaping that character? Of course, that character is so crazy.
Yes.
He's always shape-shifting
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, yeah. So what did he give me back in the day, or
Yeah, back in the day when he started, when he directed that.
I think he was so. He was very careful about creating the emotional breadth and depth of the character that felt profound and classical. And we talked a little bit long ago about sort of Shakespearean villains. I think Cassius in Julius Caesar is described as having a lean and hungry look. So that became a kind of a good quote for us. And a very obvious comparison was the relationship between Edmund and Edgar in King Lear, a legitimate son and illegitimate son, 2 brothers competing some way. And I think the greatest gift Kenneth Branagh gave me was that the arc of Loki in that first film is very poignant and full of vulnerability and heartache, so that it meant that as a antagonist later on, I had this cornerstone of emotional vulnerability, which sort of made all the nature of being a villain, I suppose. It made it more layered and more interesting and more sophisticated. So,
and it keeps getting more and more.
Yeah.
I mean, I know everyone's hounding you. Where does it go in season 2? You know, you're fronting it. It's now Loki. It's not. You're not just part of the MCU
Sure.
here.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. I understand you even conducted a kind of Loki school
I did.
when you set upon this series
Yeah.
to make sure everyone was on the same page.
Well, it wasn't something I pitched when I came in, but it was something that came out of. Because the series is really about identity,
right.
and the question being asked to Loki is, who are you?
Yeah.
Who are you really? And Loki from the Marvel comics and the ancient Norse myths is the shapeshifter, the transgressor, the boundary crosser, someone so expert at dissembling and manipulating reality. And the context of the TVA, this institution that claims to govern the order of time and reality, strips Loki of everything that's familiar, strips him of Thor and Odin and Asgard, and strips him of his clothes, his status, his magical power. And in taking all that away, the question is, what is revealed? Right. What remains?
Especially the way season 1 ended, where Mobius doesn't know him.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about identity.
Yeah.
And that, by the way, is Owen Wilson, who's so great. You were both
great.
in Midnight in Paris.
Yes.
But, you know, and what's that like too?
Well, Owen Wilson, he brings such a. I loved working with him on this. His questions were so insightful and so careful. And to go back to the Loki School thing, it was really, Loki School emerged because it was about identity and meeting all these different Lokis, or variants of Loki played by Sophia Di Martino and Richard E. Grant and Diobia Operai. suddenly sharing Loki with more Lokis, and so lots of heads of departments, wardrobe, stunts, hair and makeup, cinematography. People had these questions. They were like, they were asking me as if I was the expert. So I suggested.
You played him for 10 years.
Yeah.
You should know.
And I did a bit of a sort of Loki seminar for Owen Wilson as well. And he was so clever. He had such good questions. He said to me, "What do you love, Tom, about playing Loki?" And it was such a good question after all this time. And I heard myself saying, well, take the keys of a piano, and Loki has such range. He can play the light chords up here and of wit and mischief and charm and charisma, but he can also play these heavy chords of grief and anger and vulnerability and loss and loneliness, and the fact that the character contains these two seemingly contradictory qualities. And he said, I might use that. And then there's a moment in episode 1 where Loki is trying to use his old tricks and intimidate Mobius, and Owen, in a moment of, I think, brilliant improvisation, just said, I can play the heavy keys too. And it's a real testament to his inventiveness, I think.
Gets an A in that class.
Yeah, he did. He does. Yeah.
Oh, Mrs. Seaborn. Cora. I
never thought a country vicar would be so well read.
Oh, what a shocking lack of imagination.
What are you doing here, Will?
What do you mean?
What, a man like you out here on the marshes?
I might ask the same of you. Look what I found on my morning walk.
I didn't have you down as a collector.
Well, you inspired me to look down as well as up. What is it? Any ideas?
Some sort of lobster. Hoploparia? Where did you find it?
By the cliffs at St. Osyth. I could show you one day.
Thank you.
Keep it.
Let me ask you about the Essex Serpent, which is completely different,
Totally
and
different.
Beautifully shot, by the way.
Yes,
and
really
that
beautiful.
whole Victorian era there. You opposite Claire Danes,
Claire
in a small
Danes,
town,
magnificent
with,
Claire Danes, yeah.
this mythical creature,
Yeah.
and sheep.
Yes, yes. Very biblical.
Was that sheep
yeah.
at the beginning? Was that sheep where you were introduced in the show? Was that?
No, that's not a real sheep. No.
Oh,
so I'm
okay.
actually puppeteering the sheep. Sadly, yeah. Well, there was a real sheep for a tiny fragment. The sheep's name was Tim. Tim was kept very safe and warm and unharmed. But actually, in terms of putting Tim into the water was too dangerous, I think.
That would be. I mean, that was heavy. That was some scene.
Yeah.
And she's terrific. By the
She is
way.
amazing.
Wonderful actress. It's
Yeah.
an interesting premise and show.
Yeah.
It's about faith in many different ways.
That's right.
I think.
Faith and its seemingly contradictory opposite of reason or science, I suppose.
Right.
Set in 1893, Charles Darwin has just published The Origin of the Species. These were new revolutionary ideas at the time, that we explained or we derive meaning in our lives from where? From our belief in a higher power or from the empirical knowledge given to us by the natural sciences. And so you've got this character who's a surgeon, young, ambitious man who believes he can cut open human bodies and fix them.
Right. Yeah.
And that was a new idea at the time. And people are looking to science as a way of explaining life as opposed to looking to God. And so this debate between, where do we center ourselves in our lives, and especially in times of uncertainty. And in that regard, that's what felt very resonant for right now about about the story was it's set in 100 years ago, or 150 years ago, 131 to be exact. But it's a story about uncertainty and how sometimes if we don't understand something or we can't explain something, our fears can manipulate and distort the truth.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so the Essex Serpent, you know, a teenage girl has gone missing in the estuary. There's something bumping into the fishing boats. Is there something in the water? Has an ancient winged dragon come back from the depths to steal children and punish us for our sins? Or does the Essex Serpent represent our fears of things we don't understand, things that can't yet be explained, and so much of the story really is about the conflict at the center of all our lives between fear and love, and what wins out in the end. So.
And I wrote on my card relevance to today, because when I looked at this, I go, this is right in with what's still essentially going on.
Yeah,
and this is set in Victorian era.
Yeah, it's I suppose it's kind of collective fear when it's whipped up can be very destabilizing, because sometimes, and maybe we've had this in recent years in so many ways.
We've certainly had it here.
And then our reality is distorted, and people feel very unsettled and very anxious and destabilized. And I think it really is about that. And my character is Will Ransom, who's the local vicar and reverend, and he sees it as his role as to contain the anxieties of his parishioners. But there is a kind of a superstition that's catching fire, and that's very dangerous. And so it's sort of about that. And then Claire's character, Cora, comes into his life and throws everything out of balance, because she's grieving, but she's also on her way out of a very unhappy and abusive marriage. So there's a new freedom she feels, and an intellectual freedom, but it throws everything out of kilter and off balance. And the series is really, how things resettle.
Well, I'll tell you, I can't wait to see the rest of it.
Good, thank you.
And,
thank you very much.
That's the mark of a good show. It just pulls you in. And again, it's beautifully made. Well, 'tis the season of Tom Hiddleston.
I don't know about
Loki,
that.
the Essex Serpent, and so much more to come.
And do you know Clio Barnard, the director? She's a British director.
I don't, tell you the truth.
Who I've long been a great admirer of, and she has an amazing, a really specific and unique eye for landscape, I think.
Oh, you can tell. Yeah.
And that she wanted to fold in there's a kind of rawness to the landscape that matches the rawness of the internal emotions that all the characters are feeling.
Yeah, it's very atmospheric.
Good.
In so many ways. Yeah,
I'm pleased you liked
definitely
it.
Worth checking out. Anything Tom Hiddleston does. I didn't even mention The Night Manager, which I'm obsessed with. But
that's all right. Thank you so much, Pete.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining us on The Actors.
An honor and a pleasure. Thank you.